I'm on a mission. Yes, on a mission to find how people keep well. What does it really mean to keep well? We all know why we have to keep well, don't we? How do you keep well? Today's fast-paced world means we often get caught up with the daily grind. We struggle to develop or maintain practices that help to maintain our well-being. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant demands and pressure. It's so easy to get distracted, isn't it? And end up doing exactly what we know we shouldn't be doing. Having easy to digest information to guide and remind you to keep well can make a world of difference. Consider me to be your dedicated well-being partner, cheering you to achieve big dreams and goals, which is only possible by keeping yourself well, living a happy, healthy, and meaningful life. Hello. Thank you for coming back in again. My apologies for that break in transmission, but I think we actually needed it in a way.
I was glad to stand up.
Yes, to stand up and have a stretch and drink some water as well. And
yes.
I'm still kind of taking a lot of what you said in.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to jump back straight into the second segment of this podcast show. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, which was, in a lot of ways, I could connect with it, but from a slightly different perspective, but in a human way. And yeah, it's, upsetting to know that you had to go through all of that. And I'm kind of relieved that wasn't the end of the story. There was a second story, which is the part I am seeing now. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to hear that the first part to help me take in a lot of what you're going to say to me and to a lot of our other listeners today, and help us understand it from the perspective of a lived experience, which is always so unique. So thank you once again for sharing your story. So if I may, I'm just going to quickly introduce Coach Lillian again. Coach Lillian is a health and fitness instructor that comes with a lot of experience in the industry for over 2 decades. And she's been helping high-achieving women, to distress, to actually recognize burnout, help them to, in a way, re-regulate themselves back. And I'm sure Lillian can, by the time you listen to her, she doesn't need any more introduction. You will know exactly what she does. And I hope you will get that from the second segment. But if you haven't watched the first one or listened to the first one, please go and listen to it, because we're going to continue straight up from the first segment. So thank you once again, Lillian, for joining us this afternoon, this morning.
Thank you.
So I'm really going to go into, you talked about the pause and the breathe session. And I am actually quite intrigued about that, because sometimes as a GP, and as a GP that works both on the NHS and privately, and also in women's health clinic, I realized that there's just so much your doctor can do, and you probably need to find a way of navigating some other options that don't rely on medications all the time. And sometimes it's just a big world out there with so many practices that can be so confusing. From a personal perspective, I've explored all sorts, from mindfulness to meditation to tapping. And I think you have some experience with some of those practices as well. And, breathing. Yeah. I think that is the simplest exercise anyone can do to regulate their system, especially regulate the nervous system in midlife, where we talk about how stress has accumulated over 2 or 3 decades and begin to show up. So tell me a little bit, Lillian, about these practices, this pause and breathe practice. How does it really help to regulate the nervous system? And maybe do you have any other favorite activities to regulate the nervous system at all?
So with pause and breathe, it starts with the breath. And breathing is something that we as humans tend to overlook because we're used to living busy lives. And it wasn't until I was forced to pause, forced to pause, that I realized that I wasn't breathing properly. And I learned through the healing process that I went through just the power of breathing and how it can regulate the nervous system. So we have two branches to the nervous system. Well, you've got your central nervous system, and then you've got your, what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which helps you to get up and go and do activities day to day. That's what helps us to get going, push through, deal with urgent things, manage our busy schedules and our demands. That nervous system is there as a friend. However, when we're too much in that zone, in that, that very push, sympathetic drive, then that can lead to overdrive of that nervous system. Okay. Then we've got the other branch to our nervous system, which is a parasympathetic nervous system. And that one is responsible for what we call the rest and digest. So that helps us to rest. It helps us to get quiet, helps us to be still. It helps to regulate the heartbeat, our blood pressure, our hormones, our thyroid. So in my case, when I went into burnout, my parasympathetic nervous system was not responding at all. It was very much in sympathetic nervous system response. So hence why my thyroid was hyperactive, why my blood pressure was hyper. So that's the two distinctions. So in terms of regulating, what science has now realized is that just by taking time out just to be still and just do some simple deep breaths, just inhaling for, say, the count of 4 and exhaling for the count of 4, will help to shift that nervous system response and regulate it. Because ideally, our nervous system should have what they call a tone. And that means it should go up and down, just like how our heart beats, it beats back and forth, back and forth. That is how our nervous system should go. And I like to mimic it like the tide, the sea tide. So as the tide comes in, the tide goes back out. And that is how our nervous systems should work as well. Sadly, for most busy people, especially high achieving midlife women, it's up there. It's high.
On the go all the time.
On the go, constantly. And I also mimic it to, you're in a car and your foot is constantly on the accelerator and it's pushed down to the floor. And that is how most people's nervous system is. Whereas when we take the foot off the accelerator and we, depend what type of car you're driving, whether it's automatic or manual, you release it, you release the accelerator. That is how our nervous system should work. So just by breathing, it helps you to shift out that sympathetic nervous system response into a parasympathetic nervous system response. So let me break that down into plain English. So you will shift out from a high stress or chronic stress position into a low stress or a rest and digest position. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And I quite like the analogy of the accelerator and the brake. And I would assume that there are different alarm systems in a car that sends the alarm, and makes people to push down on the brake. And then you, the driver, realize, oh, this is a bit more of pushing down on the accelerator. I need to press the brake now. And that's what we sometimes say. You have to become aware of it. Yeah. And I think that was what happened to you when you started listening to other people. You listened to your body. You didn't really understand what was going on, but then you listened to other people. And I think that's where you were able to actually accept the fact that you needed to press on the brake, wasn't it?
Yes. When I went and I sought help and then I realized the symptoms and then, like I say, it was for me, okay, something needs to change here.
Yeah. And what you mentioned also the denial process. Sometimes when you're on the hamster wheel of life, you just feel like, well, you don't know anything else. You just have to keep going. And it takes 1 or 2 warning signals. By the time your body is really breaking out in an alert all the time, that means that you can't help it. You talked about how you were exhausted, fatigued. I think that was the first warning signal.
Yeah.
And then the second one came a few years down the line when you knew that, no, I need to get help. Yes. I can imagine what would have happened if you got help the first time, or maybe you started practicing those pause and breathing, came out of that silence and really took it in your hands. But I know sometimes these things can be difficult, isn't it?
It can be. And I did seek help from the first time when I burnt out. I did seek help from coaches who I went on courses to do with stress management, how to manage my stress. Because again, I had to admit to myself that I was stressed. Food management as well, how to eat properly, basically how to look after myself as a health advisor.
Talking about food management, I just want us to go into that because that was one big part of your recovery process. Can you talk us through? Because now I personally, as a GP, I worry. I have never been one to go on a diet, thankfully so, but I know I'm not the same as many other people. My metabolism, you look at my mom and my grandparents were all on the slim side, but I have had health issues as well. Perhaps because I've taken things for granted that my body would always be the same way it's always been. But I have heard of people doing some very restrictive diet regimes. And you worry not just on the impacts, the short-term impact of, yes, they would lose weight, but what about the longer-term impacts on the bone health and also how this contributes to other nutritional processes? Your brain needs glucose, for example, to function during the day. And if you keep having just short bursts of glucose, and how, you talked about the wave, how these glucose spikes and drops can even affect the way the brain is functioning. So tell us a bit more about how you managed your own nutrition to recover. Perhaps what mistakes you see midlife women make with their nutrition that you may hope that they might begin to take the opportunity to correct when they can.
So first and foremost, my first awareness of my eating was that I wasn't eating what I call properly. I would have breakfast, I would have dinner, but my lunch would be things like little snacks, whether that's chocolate, whether that's fruit, because I thought it was healthy, or a packet of crisps. Yeah. And I'm just being honest with everyone out there because not every fitness trainer is healthy. And I came to understand that, And so when I realized the nutrition gaps that were in my eating pattern, I had to start filling those in. So first and foremost, I realized how many intolerances I had. And I wondered why. Okay, I'm eating muesli, it's healthy, but then why do I feel sleepy 15 minutes after? Why does my head feel like it's
a washing machine? That happens to me.
And then I realized I had a wheat intolerance, that I had gluten intolerance, that I always knew that dairy I had an intolerance with, but it became evidently clear to me that that was the reason why I was so bloated, and not only bloated in the tummy, but bloated in my face. When I look at earlier pictures of myself, how inflamed I was, Dr. Jaiye, it's amazing, So all these intolerances that I had, intolerance to soy and so many other factors. So I had to sort that out. And then I lacked the phytonutrients, which are the micronutrients of, like vitamins that we would take. Yeah. That these are the little, what I call powerhouses that really support our bodies nutritionally. They were missing from my eating pattern, completely missing. So if you remember in the first part, I mentioned that I went to this coach who was teaching about weight loss and I followed his protocol. So he was the one that helped me and guided me with the healing protocol for my nutrition. So he helped me to get on the right supplements. And so not all supplements are equal. So, the audience need to remember that. So he helped me to piece that all together. And then, of course, an eating plan. Now, when I saw the eating plan, I was like, oh my goodness, I've never eaten food like this. Here I am, Dr. Jaiye. I'm age 40, right? I'm a fitness trainer and I've never eaten healthy foods. In the morning, it was like, okay, protein in each meal, number one. Okay. So it'd be something like, egg and vegetables. Okay. For my lunch, it would be like mackerel soup and vegetables. Okay. And then for dinner, like a sweet potato, jacket potato with salad and kale. I had to do a new complete shopping list.
Wow.
So whenever I went shopping, I'd have this list and it would take me forever
to find everything, because you were not just used to finding those things.
No. And there were, new shops that I had to go to, health shops I had to, I was asking them, what's this? What's quinoa? What's millet? What's buckwheat? All these grains that I've never, ever eaten. But when I ate them, I felt so good. And it felt like my body was just sucking it all up and drawing it in. And I felt so energized. I started to sleep better. My body odor changed for the better. My energy levels were higher. I just felt great within myself. I felt stronger, So, and I ate in a way which I called the alkaline eating way, which was there's a map that shows you different alkaline foods as opposed to acidic foods. And I realized that because I was so stressed that I was hungering after these acidic foods. So when you're stressed, your body automatically thinks that you're in danger. So it thinks you're in fight or flight.
Yes.
So it thinks, okay, we've got to fuel this person up because there's danger on the outside. So come on, let's give her that craving for sugar, salty foods, carbs. And that's what I was eating a lot of the time because I was stressed. So now that my body was coming out of that stress zone, I was starting to crave healthier foods, the greens, the proteins, the healthy fats. Oh my goodness, avocado oil, olive oil.
I know.
So many yummy stuff that my body was then able to heal. Now, the second part of your question was, what can midlife women be doing? And number one is the intolerances. Look at the foods that you're intolerant to, because a majority of women are eating foods that they are allergic to, or, they find, well, I eat this and then I become bloated. I eat this and then I can't sleep at night, or I drink this substance and then I feel irritable, or my energy levels go up and then I get an energy crash. So look at little signs like that of what happens. I always say to my clients, keep a food diary. That's what I started to do. When you're eating something, 15 minutes to half an hour later, how do you feel in yourself? Not only physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Yes.
So keeping a food diary to keep track on that. And look at how you're eating. Are you eating 3 good meals a day? Or are you skimping on breakfast, which is very common for high achieving midlife women? When I take on new clients, the first thing I ask them is, what's your eating like? And when they tell me, oh, I don't have time for breakfast, no,
that has to stop.
That has to stop. Exactly. It has to stop, because first thing in the morning, your cortisol levels rise, and they rise to help you get going and get started in your day. But if after a while you're not fueling your body, that cortisol level will stay high. And because it go back into the accelerator analogy. That accelerator is down on the floor and it's revving. That engine is revving. And what's it revving? It's the emissions are getting out of that tank. That petrol is going down. Your energy levels are slowly going down, and you're running adrenaline. And after a while, that's going to head towards burnout. So it's important that you eat those 3 meals a day.
That is so important. And you talked about the way your body's metabolism works, the emotional health, but also the bone health. And I think, again, for a lot of women with intolerances, they're stopping dairy, they're stopping so many things that, not because of anything, not because of even weight loss, but just because their body can't tolerate it. And there's a science behind that. I don't want to go into that right now, but the risk is that then they begin to have early signs of osteoporosis, osteopenia, which again, and combined out with lack of movement, lack of exercise, the muscle, then the joint pains begin, and they begin to wonder why. Why are my joints aching? Of course, there are hormonal factors that can play in, but a combination of the diet, lack of activity, hormonal factors, just it's a storm in a teapot where people start feeling achy and exhausted. So thank you so much for explaining that. I would always use that analogy because there's so much we can take from that accelerator braking, fuel for your car. And there's just a lot that we can learn from that analogy. One other aspect I want us to talk about is you've been through it, stopping and starting. You are already at a high level of your fitness journey. One thing happens or the other, and then you struggle. You stop and then you struggle to get back on, even due to injuries. And I think one of your recent posts was about injuries and how to recover from injuries. Tell us a bit about, is it all about motivation or is there something more to it? Please tell us a bit more.
No, it's not. It's not purely about motivation. And I've been in that place where I've been injured or unwell and you want to get back into your fitness routine. And I've had many clients in the same position as well, particularly midlife women when they have certain symptoms of menopause or perimenopause and they feel that their energy level's not quite there or they've got other symptoms that seem to, hinder their progress in their fitness. So the first thing I say is look at your why. Why are you keeping fit? Always have that vision in your mind and attach to that because sometimes, especially in this social media world, we can look at what other people are doing and then we can start to berate ourselves and think, yeah, I'm like her. Why can I not do this? Why have I not got the energy? Because you're in a different place. You're injured or you're perimenopausal or you're menopausal. So give yourself grace and say, okay, this is how my body is at the moment. Okay, let me get back to my why. This is my vision. Oh, yes, it's to be healthy, fit and strong, or it's to lose this amount of weight, etc., whatever your vision is. Then the next thing is to have the adequate, appropriate tools in place to look after yourself. Don't think that, because I'm feeling unwell or I'm injured, that it's all down to me to get myself better. This is why we as experts are here.
Yes.
Sometimes you may need to see your GP, you may need to see a physio, you might need to see someone else, a health professional, in order to help you get back on track.
Yeah.
So don't think, I'm just going to rest for one day and then I'm going to get back onto, back into my routine, back into running a marathon. No. Listen to your body. Is it ready to get back into exercise? If it isn't, there are different alternatives that you can do, but you must seek professional help on what that is. Don't get back up and say, right, I'm getting back into my normal routine, because oftentimes that can set you back.
Definitely. And that's why I always feel like midlife is a time to honor your body. You can't do things like you were doing in your 20s or in your 30s anymore. Otherwise, you would pay very dearly for it in ways that even you may have not even expected to pay. And I always like that talk about, is midlife a crisis, a catalyst? I think it is more of a catalyst to look after yourself and honor your body. Listen to it and kind of tune it to what it needs at that point in time. One of the things you alluded to was, alternatives. So, many people think exercise is all about walking or running. Can you tell us what other alternatives there are there?
There's lots of alternatives when it comes to fitness, Dr. Jaiye, I'm telling you. When I teach a group program called Fit Temple. It's a 12-week program. And whenever I come up with new exercises, the ladies, and we have a couple of men in the group as well, they just look at me and say, where do you get these exercises from? But it's not just about walking. And sadly, a lot of midlife women stop at walking. And you mentioned about bone health. Walking is a good start. It's a great start. We are anatomically built to walk. That's a great start for exercise, and movement doesn't stop there. When we do exercises such as jumping, skipping rope, running or jogging, when we do things like using a rebounder, These are great exercises for bone health, which is what we need in midlife. There are other exercises, strength training. A lot of science research has come out now about the benefits of strength training for us midlife women. We should be on this. It's no longer the Jane Fonda type. And if you're old enough to know Jane Fonda, the Jane Fonda, feel the burn type of aerobic. It's no longer that option. We can go in, whether go in the gym or even at home, get a set of dumbbells, or if you haven't got dumbbells, use something that mimics weights. It could be water, bottles of water that you use as weights to exercise and build strength. Not only does that build muscle strength, it protects your tendons and your ligaments which surround your joints. So you're also strengthening your joints as well. But the more of the strength training and what we call the plyometric type of exercise, like the jumping, the skipping rope that you do, the stronger you become in bone and in muscle as well. And then there's also other exercises such as swimming, which is great, cycling, using a bicycle. So much is available.
Amazing stuff. And that's why, sometimes I don't like using the word exercise because people naturally think it's just swimming and walking. I try to use the word movement because it covers so much, not just the aerobics or the strength training, but also the mind-body movement in a way. And how you move your mind. There's just so much involved in there. But more and more, that's why I always say to people, please don't expect your GP to tell you all these things in 10 minutes. Or 15 minutes. And that's why I more and more I'm thinking of, a situation where I can bring women and they can begin to be exposed to all the other options of people, experts, professionals who can teach you, who can guide you, who have enough time to go into specific details that maybe your GP might not be able to go into in a 10 or 15 minute appointment. So please, women out there is a lot more that your body needs at this stage, not because you're not enough, but because it's helping you prepare for this decade where you can make better impact, whether it's with your family or whether it's with your colleagues or whether it's with your business or your work. There is just so much in you that you have to give the world, and we have to get your body ready and your mind ready for it. So you've talked about a number of different things here. One aspect of midlife is weight gain and weight loss. And how do you manage to shift the women in your group or even the men in your group? How do you manage to shift that mindset? We talked about mindset earlier on, and you shared some of what your own mindsets were and how you managed to move from those mindsets. How do we move people from that mindset of weight loss to strength and vitality? What are your suggestions for that?
Well, first and foremost, when I have ladies and men, come to me and say, Lillian, I want to lose weight, I ask them what type of weight. And then they look at me like this, and then they start showing me their tummy or their arms or whatever. And I say, okay, there's different types of weight to lose. And I break it down for them. There's bone weight, there's muscle weight, there's fat weight. Which weight do you want to lose? And then the penny drops for them and they realize, oh, I didn't realize that there was so many components to my body. So the essence of losing weight, I always say to them, the more muscle you build, that muscle acts like a furnace in your body. And when you're not exercising, it actually grows. That muscle grows and it takes up room in your body. And the more muscle you have, the more it will help to burn that fat, that excess fat. Now, there's difference in terms of fats. There's different fats. There's peripheral fats around the legs, the arms, the outside parts of the torso. We don't want to lose what we call the healthy fat, which surrounds the organs. That one we don't, because you need that. There are different types, and we can't go into that today. However, excess fat, which is what we're speaking about. So when I say to ladies, this is not about diet. This is not about going on a strict diet. You need to start looking at a good movement practice that will help you to strengthen your body, build and condition your muscles so that when you're away from exercising and you're resting, that muscle is working on your behalf. It's a bit like accommodating interest. When you put money in the bank you don't sit there and watch it grow. That money is accumulating interest over time. And then the next thing, you go for your balance and your balance has grown. It's the same thing with our bodies. We're accumulating
passive income,
interest.
like they say.
Yes, passive income in our bodies. So we need more muscle to be able to lower that excess fat. Now, women then say to me, yeah, but I don't want to end up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't want to be muscular. And I think the chances of that happening are zero. Yeah. You need to be in the gym like 4 hours each day. And you need to be on a high protein diet. That's not what I do. What you need to do is eat regularly, do some strength training at least 3 times a week, and then you'll start to see a difference. That's what we do in terms of losing excess fat weight.
Amazing. You know, sometimes the notion of eating more to lose fat can sometimes feel a bit strange to so many people. But and that's where it comes to, you really need to listen to the right people to help you. Not everything on the internet is specific for you. You have to find somebody who listens to you, who sees you, who understands what your life is about at the moment, then that can guide you. So all these DIYs from all sorts of information online, I think is something that we really need to be addressing as much as possible.
They need to stop following certain people who don't know what they're talking about, or are just, promoting certain products which they themselves are not even taking. I advise your audience, please seek help from a qualified professional, health professional who, like you say, who knows what they're talking about. Seek me out. And because I've seen so many people get damaged and hurt by following the wrong advice. And it really saddens me. It really does.
Again, it comes to how you're so passionate about what you do, Lillian. Just making sure people have the right information at the right time, making sure people eat and nourish their body, move their body with kindness, rest. I think that's one big thing and one impression you have left with me today, how to pause and breathe, rest with intention. And these are all valid things, especially for high-achieving midlife women. And when we say high-achieving, it doesn't come from just your job. It comes with even raising a family, looking after the older generation, looking after teenage children that you have as a midlife woman, and also all the community efforts and everything that you're doing to impact our world. I really hope people are listening and hearing us out. Lillian, how can we find you? And especially people who want to connect with you, because you have shared some really deep insight here. And I really want people to be able to find you and connect with your work. Tell us a bit more about how we can find you online or work with you.
So you can find me at lillianlarte.com, which is my website. I also have a Linktree site as well. So they can go to Linktree and then it's Lillian_Lartey. And to work with me, well, I have my 12-week Fit Temple group program. We have 2 classes. One is called a Body Fit class, which is, really high impact, those who want to lose weight and get strong. And then we have our Body Balance class, which is for those who are just starting out and exercise. They've got joint problems or some type of health issue, and they want to start slowly and carefully. And that happens, our next round of class, because it's a 12-week program, it starts in September through to December. And it's not just classes. We also have health and healing clinics. So we talk about mindset, we talk about nutrition, we talk about chronic pain, we talk about so many things that will help to set the foundation of being healthy, fit and strong. And it's a mixed class, so it's open to midlife women and men. And it's just a joy. They all love it. So,
I mean, I think we had a bit of a taster of one of your sessions. And, I could see how people started very reluctantly watching you. And at the end of it, you were able to carry everybody along so well, so beautifully, that it was such a joyful moment. So, I mean, I wish I was close to you. I think you are closer to the south, aren't you?
Yes, Mitcham. That's where we run the classes. But I also work online with clients.
Oh, fabulous.
One-to-one. I do consultations. I do VIP sessions where you can work with me for 3 hours through to a day where we look at you holistically. And you can say, right, Lillian, this is my vision. This is what I want. And then we can map things for you. So you've got a map and a plan to go away with. And I do that in person and I do that online as well.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. That is, something I love to hear, and how people manage to influence others. When I say influence in a positive way, to help you live longer, to help you remain fit, strong, and healthy, especially in midlife. I always believe midlife is just that period of time where we should stop battling with our body, but reconnect with it in a way that it can help you live longer into old age, avoid nursing homes, like some people say.
Yes.
And have fun, at that period when you've gone beyond midlife into later years. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and not be a burden to anyone, because we're all living longer now. So that's my hope, and that's my aim with this podcast, to kind of encourage women to know how to look after themselves and how to do it with intention. So we're rounding up now. Thank you once again, Lillian, for this wonderful, wonderful segment where we've really gone deeper into aspects of your mind, how to move the mind in a positive way, look at things that have held you back and address those issues. Look at your nutrition, look at all the different types of movement, and also learn about how to regulate our nervous system. So thank you so much for this session you've done with me today. I really appreciate it. Now, to my dear listeners, I would say try to move for 10 minutes every day this week in a way that brings you joy. Okay? If you're struggling for ideas, Lillian is there to help you. Please contact her. On my show notes, you will find all the details about how to contact Lillian. And also, pick one new action. So for someone like me, I felt you talking to me when you said, don't stop at walking, because I do my walks 3 times a week. So I'm going to pick one new action this week that I can do, whether it's just dumbbells or carrying, lifting whatever it is, skipping, jumping, something that I can sustain. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for all your positive feedbacks for previous episodes. They always mean a lot to me when I read them. And I do hope you would be able to enjoy this episode. Thank you once again, Lillian, and thank you everyone for listening. All right. Lillian, any last words for us before we say bye, 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 bye?
Just keep going, keep moving, eat healthy, look after yourselves. Midlife doesn't have to be masked with, the doldrums of menopause. No, like what Dr. Jaiye says, connect with your body, love yourself. And, let's get healthy, fit and strong, not only for midlife, but beyond as well.
Amazing. Thank you again, Lillian, and thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.